Are we live? Have you gone
Naveen,
alive? Good morning. My name is Florel Caldera, and I work as the Senior Associate, Community and Corporate Engagement at International Justice Mission Mumbai. International Justice Mission is a global organization that protects the most vulnerable from violence and oppression, irrespective of their gender, community, caste, race, and ethnicity. IGM India works with the state and central governments on two forms of human trafficking: bonded labor and sex trafficking of minors. We work alongside government officials and grassroots organizations to rescue and rehabilitate victims, prosecute offenders, and train public justice officials. On behalf of International Justice Mission Mumbai, and in collaboration with St. Gonsalo Garcia College, Vasai, I would like to welcome our distinguished speakers, principal, vice principal, faculty, and students from all over. Today, we have gathered to speak and discuss a crime that more often than not in the real world goes unnoticed. How much more hidden must the crime of online sexual exploitation of children be? On April 8, 2020, The Hindu, a nationally recognized news agency, wrote a shocking article. The title read, "Most online content on child sexual abuse from India was over 19.87 lakh reports, and these have been uploaded to various virtual platforms. In a global compilation of reports of child sexual abuse found online, India stands right on top of the list with over 11.7% of the total reports. It follows by Pakistan, which contributes to 6.8%, and Bangladesh comes in fourth with only 3.3%. Experts around the world are all expressing great anxieties about the impact of the mass lockdown. Pedophiles who work online are seeking to exploit the situation, looking for bored children. As we begin this webinar, we hope to initiate a discussion that any and all crimes against minors must be reported so that justice could be meted out. And so, without taking any more time, may I introduce the principal, Dr. Somnath Vibhuti of St. Gonsalo Garcia College, Vasai. Dr. Somnath Vibhuti is the principal since 1st November 2018. He is an associate professor in economics and has been in the field of teaching since 1997. He is also a member of the Board of Studies in Economics, the University of Mumbai. Dr. Vibhuti has co-authored many books on economics, business economics, and presented several research papers. Now over to Dr. Somnath.
Thank you. Yeah, good morning. At the outset, I hope that you all are safe in your homes during this COVID-19 pandemic and taking enough care of yours and your family members. I'm particularly happy today that the Department of Commerce of St. Gonzalo Garcia College, in association with International Justice Mission, has taken this very innovative initiative to organize a webinar on the subject of online kind of violence or sexual abuse of children, particularly in the scenario of COVID-19. As we are aware that due to this COVID-19 pandemic, many of our student friends, they are homebound. But due to this digital wave, I can say, we can find that most of our children, they are using internet more and they are exposed to the outside world to a greater extent. But they being in a particular age, they may or they may not be fully aware about the nature of the crime or cyber kind of sexual crimes and aftermaths of that. So I take this opportunity once again that the International Justice Mission, which is doing a fundamental and very fantastic kind of work to awaken the young minds regarding the ill effects of the sexual harassment, which some of them they might face during this COVID-19 pandemic. So today's resource persons, Commander Ashok Kumar, which is Regional Director at IJM, and Shri Atul Kulkarni, Additional SP from Gondia. I congratulate and I'm thankful to them for being a resource person at this very important webinar, which is going to truly enlighten the participants on various aspects of this kind of violence, which may not be offline as it used to be, but it is a new way of violence and how to protect ourselves. It is said in our college motto that let thy light shine, or Swaprakashena Dikpatam. And I'm fully hopeful that such kind of attempts will definitely empower the attendees from across India to make themselves more enlightened regarding such kind of violences and protect themselves. I once again thank all the organizers, the entire support team, technical team, who has been instrumental in making this webinar a grand success. Wishing everyone a grand success for this webinar. Thank you so much. Stay home, stay happy, and stay healthy. Over to you, Madam Farrell.
Thank you, Dr. Somnath. Participants, please note, in order to have the webinar run smoothly and to avoid technical glitches, we have muted your mics and blocked your videos. Once we begin the presentations, the Q&A box will also be available for any questions you may have on the subject matter. Many of you have also noted questions while you registered. I have some of them with me, and time pertaining, we will be able to pose them to our speakers. I would now like to introduce Commander Ashok Kumar, retired, Regional Director, Investigations and Law Enforcement Development for International Justice Mission. Commander Ashok is a former naval officer and an alumnus of the 94th National Defense Academy, who has had a decorated career with the armed forces, where he commanded warships, led highly sensitive transnational missions of the highest order, among other distinguished roles. During the course of his naval career, he has held positions with the Navy, the Coast Guard, Marine Police Force, and the Naval Police Investigations. He has also provided security for vital national assets. He has also trained officers at the Indian Naval Academy and was instrumental in setting up a key marine police station to combat human trafficking by sea. Commander Ashok has been fighting human and trafficking crime syndicates for the past few years and has been directly involved in the rescue of over 3,600 women and children from the bondage of human slavery in the last 3 years alone, working with about 10 states in India in collaboration with police and judiciary. Commander Ashok is currently serving many organizations as a senior consultant for human trafficking issues, including IJM. Commander Ashok has also received the following meritorious awards: the Chief of the Naval Staff Meritorious Commendation, Director General, Indian Coast Guard Meritorious Medal for saving maximum lives at sea, Flag Officer, Commanding-in-Chief Commendation for saving lives on a burning vessel. Commander Ashok, over to you.
Thank you, Frill. I want to just take this opportunity to appreciate International Justice Mission and the St. Gonzales Garcia College of Vasai, Dr. Somnath, the principal, the members of the International Justice Mission, Mr. Mervyn, Christine, Farrell, amazing moderator, Sumit, a couple of people are working behind to ensure this happens systematically well and well structured. I also take this time, the topic like this is very relevant. I think you'll be the first one to even title it on these lines, that there is no lockdown on sexual crimes or sexual exploitations on children during this season. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I can't wait to speak after such an amazing introduction by Farrell. Well, I'm going to share my slides this morning, and that will help us to take you through the 20 minutes that I've got this morning. Yes. Two questions for the moderator. Am I audible and my slide visual? Okay, you can even raise a thumbs up so that I proceed once you give
Yes,
me a
Commander,
go-ahead.
you are visual
Great.
and the slide is visual.
Thank you. Well, the topic this morning is called No Lockdown on Violence Against Children, Online Sexual Exploitation. I will make a conscious effort to be very deliberate, very slow, so that in case you're following, in case you want to take down some notes so that your questions are answered, I would be very deliberate and slow. And I've been given close to about 20 minutes time to take you through this. Okay. Well, the title itself is an acceptance. It's a truth. And you have heard the moderator this morning read out from the Hindu newspaper, which was recently, a few weeks back, published. And we stand on the top, not that we are proud of it, but it's a deep sense of concern. And that concern needs to be addressed by a platform like this. And many students who are there on this platform are going to be the people who are going to address this issue. It is a very agreed concept across the world and very specific to our region, South Asia, and to our continent specifically. It is a true and it is not a myth. It is happening every day. Great. The coronavirus pandemic puts the children at risk on the online sexual exploitation. Again, I want to be very conscious while I say this word. When I say children, it is gender neutral. I'm not saying it's only girl or boy or transgender. It's a gender neutral subject I'm discussing about. When I say children, I want to be very conscious. I'm talking about anything from 1 year and above. That is a spectrum that we are looking at online sexual exploitation, 1 year and above. There are 3 or 4 cases in the last 3 years of even small babies as small as 6 months to 4 months also been in this range. So I want to be very consciously expanding my scope for my discussion this morning. So I'm discussing on the spectrum of 1 year and above. Okay, it is gender neutral. And the definition of the word exploitation is very interesting for you. Or you must understand the word exploitation. It is not, we are not talking about simple teasing or anything that does not outraging the act of, it's much, much deeper and it's much, much more intense. The density of the subject is quite intense. So much so, to set my tone and my conversation today, it is much more than a simple pornographic view. It's much deeper. Online sexual exploitation of children goes beyond the spectrum of a sexual intercourse act. It moves much beyond that. It's quite intense and it's quite dense in it. So much so that sites that supply to it are quite grave. First of all, watching a child porn is quite grave, but the child porn itself has degrees of exploitation, which includes bleeding, which includes screaming, which includes beating up, which includes tying up, lot of acts that are performed during this form of exploitation. So what I want to set the stage is, I'm not talking about just mere browsing, not that that's right, but I'm saying it's very, very intense and a serious crime I'm discussing. So my topic is exclusively on exploitation of children during the pandemic. More than 1.5 billion children and young people have been affected by the closing of schools worldwide, and many online are now taking classes and are socializing. This sets a fantastic harvest ground for the traffickers and for the people who are using this medium as a source of income. Well, many of you may know, but may not know. Let me just elaborate it for you. What am I talking about? I'm talking about an organized crime. There are 7 kinds of organized crime in the world. Human trafficking is one such of them. And the human trafficking, as on last year's indexes, indicates it's a 30 billion industry, financial industry, and it raises a significant amount of capital across the world, and there is a large flow of capital. But the mere thumb rule statistics alone says that close to 50 to 60% of the income comes from exploitation of children, and majority of it happens on the online platform. and it involves children. So we're talking about 1.5 billion children across the world. And I don't want to give you what are the thumb calculations. Just to give you a quick update, we contribute 23% in the world human trafficking segment, 23% on sexual exploitation, and about 7% on labor trafficking. So this is a big piece as far as our region is concerned. It's not something that we are just can pass it away as an eyewash, but it's quite intense and deep. Well, spending more time on virtual platforms can leave children vulnerable to online sexual exploitation and grooming as predators look to exploit the COVID-19 pandemic. Why am I able to say this? The shutting down of schools has moved most of our children onto a platform which is virtual. It has moved them to a platform of virtuality. Well, the rich and the middle class can afford to have an internet, so that most of the time is converted on the platforms of virtualness. But there are poor. Close to 300 million children are off schools today. They don't get the midday meal, which was scheduled prior to COVID. So where are they? They are right now either being groomed or being sexually exploited, or right now under the control of the predators who are now waiting for the COVID to end and start the businesses back again to the full sledge. So somewhere there is a spectrum that we are talking about. A lack of face-to-face contact also has enhanced and increased the risk during this time. We have stopped having face-to-face contact, so we really do not know what's happening to people. At least in the past, there was some kind of a contact. We knew if the victim was exploited, but right now, the closed environment has caused us to remain a big blind zone on the quantity of exploitation. Lack of face-to-face contact with friends may lead to heightened risk. Taking such as sending sensationalized images, while increased in structured time online may expose children to potentially harm and violent content, all as well as greater risk of cyberbullying. Many of you may have read a recent article of a mother in the New York Times. The son was playing a very common game called the Minecraft. The son is about 7 years old, and he was playing this which is a very safe game. Minecraft, many of you may have played, or Fortnite, both games you must have tried out. So she saw him playing, and he wanted to take a bio break. So he had asked his mom, why don't you continue the game on my behalf? And she sat down to continue the game on his behalf. And when she sat down, in a few seconds, she saw bestiality appear, pornographic site appear, and triggered conversations with his son. That raised alarms to the mother, and then she reported the case, and eventually a sizable amount of shutdowns had happened. So I'm just saying, as simple as that, children right now are using online games. They are potentially in the world of being either groomed or sexually exploited, or likely to be falling into a greater space of exploitation. Lack of face-to-face encounters. We are right now busy in our world. Parents are busy with works. They've got Zoom calls. They've got tight schedules, agendas to meet. Children are left to themselves to figure out what they have to do. All these are potential grounds during COVID-19 that we may end up having a serious issue. We're already into a serious issue. We may end up much more grave issues as we move forward. What are the major threats to children? What are some of the risks children face online? Yeah, the first and foremost risk that the children can face is what they see. What they see. Very important. I know you have got a lot of controls, system controls. You can select a certain web page to appear or not to appear. You can block certain of them. You can put a firewall. A lot of technical gadgets are available. But what I'm talking to you is not about what you see on your desktop. Children today have a great access to the deep web. And deep web access gives you through certain softwares. And children of this age are well aware how to ensure that the screen on the desktop is absolutely clean, but yet they have access, or they've broken into dark web. Well, why do they go into dark? The first and the foremost is, I can give you adequate reasons why children want to explore dark web. One reason I can give you is curiosity, excitement, something challenging, something different from the mundane screen that appears. Let's try what is there inside. And they end up exploring things like how to rape a child, or how to kill, or how to create a bomb. These are the things that they start finding something which is not available on the regular platforms of the Google. So they end up seeing things that are more exciting and more non-routine in life. And that is the first place where children begin. What they see eventually leads the desire for them to probe and to enter into that space. So you must be very, very clear as parents or guardians or teachers or some of your students, and to guard your friends, to ensure what are they seeing, what are they watching, because you really do not know what you will end up into. The second, what they do, very important. I know today we've got a lot of tools to erase history. We've got tools to ensure that what the digital signatures on the gadgets are removed, not fully removed to a very great extent, but yes, at least on the face it will appear that. So what they do on the online is a very important, interesting principle that we need to know. Most of the children who are subjected to exploitation generally spend a sizable amount of time on surfing. Not that surfing is bad, but surfing eventually will lead you to a place, because the guys who are online are 24/7, have put triggers to a guy who's just wandering around searching on the web page, becomes a vulnerable target, and he will ensure that he will leave more digital signatures on the online platform, which will eventually make him realize that he is the most vulnerable person, and he will be contacted by the predator or the trafficker sooner or later through some social platform. And so what you do is a very important aspect on the subject, and children should be very careful what they're doing, and guardians, especially children's parents, please ensure that you know what your children are seeing and what they're doing online. Third, who they talk to is an important, courtesy to the internet society, which calls out these three as the top 3 reasons why children fall trap online. Who they talk to, very important. It is very, very important that you verify who they talk to you. Most of the time, the people who display themselves as adults are actually not adults. Some of them who display themselves as children are not actually children. Some of them who display themselves as male are not males. Some of them who display themselves as women are not women. They have masked and used a digital face and a portfolio to ensure that they're communicating with. It's very important that every person that you talk to on the online is verified, double verified, rechecked before you move forward on this platform. So top three risks that can set up for the children online. What they see, very important. What they do is absolutely important. Who they talk to is an important element. So I would say if you can ensure these top 3 things, what they see, what they do, who they talk to, you can more or less circle down to the risk capability of yourself or your children or your friend or your acquaintance, whoever is there as part of your circle. How are generally children affected online? The first part that children are exploited are there is an online sexual abuse material, which means through friendly conversations, through good conversations, which begin with good conversations, eventually it will come to a place where you've been told to share something that is of a sexually abusive material. For example, a child is playing a game, and while he's playing the game, he's not able to cross a certain level. He's stuck at a particular level. And the guy who's controlling the game sends back, okay, well, you want a clue? I'll give you a clue. But to get the clue, why don't you send me the photograph of your stomach, bare stomach? Click it, upload it, you will get the clue. So here is the beginning of the conversation. So the child is so excited to break that level. The person is so excited. And here is this guy asked only the photograph of the stomach. So as the levels increase, the pictures will start going down. Eventually, it will go down to his private parts and display. So online sexual abuse material begins like platforms like this. Maybe a game, maybe a point, maybe some clue you need, some special weapon you need while you're playing or while engaging on a conversation. I'm using game as one of the million other ways on which you can be sexually, your content can be put across. People use mobile phones in toilets. Most of the children take them to the mobile phone to the toilets. If you have used a certain kind of, you've browsed a certain kind of a web page through your mobile, and you may or may not know, you could be clicked photographs using in the restroom. So my strong advice to children, do not take the mobile phones to your restrooms or your toilets or your changing rooms or wherever you're likely to end up giving sexually abused material online. So be very careful. The first place where you can get exploited. Second, grooming of children for sexual purposes. This is very much the big piece of the online internet. The grooming takes place anything between 6 months to 2.5 years. for the trafficker. He works close to about 6 months to 2.5 years with you, and in this 6 months to 2.5 years, he ensures that you build a great level of confidence and trust, so much so that the child or the person who's being groomed depends so much on that person rather than even the parents or their school or teachers or friends or acquaintances. The sense of reliability is developed through modems of trust, gifts, constant conversations, sympathy, empathy. They're able to create a virtual world of conversation. And this is the process by which a child is actually groomed. And the child is actually groomed for sexual purposes. Eventually, once the trust is built, it will move to a physical meeting or a physical display of an act or showing of a certain body parts are all part and parcel of the grooming, which eventually will add up to the sale of the child in the bigger market of the trafficking. The third thing where the child gets affected, live streaming of sexual abuse of children. This is the big piece. Like hubs like Philippines have already called the hub of Philippines is called the hub of live streaming. We as a nation are still evolving to this crime. Not that we are completely disconnected, absolutely not. But the nation of India has slowly started to see a pattern of live streaming sexual abuse of children. And I said, sexual abuse of children is much more intensity. It's much more density is much more graver. It involves beating, bleeding, couple of other things that are all part of the sexual abuse of children. But what they do at a remote location, people pay money to see it live at a different location, and therefore children are there are sex videos that have been shown of a small brother and a sister, and there's a perpetrator who's making them do, and that has been live streamed to another. Philippines happens to be the hub, as I've said this before, but we are still as a nation evolving to this, and we are not very far away from this. We will sooner or later see that it enters into our backyards. So let's start to protect our children from that. The fourth is sextortion, coercion or blackmailing children for sexual purposes. Recently, you must have read an article in the Hindu again about 2 weeks back about a sixth class boy who managed to take a photograph of the teacher of the school. You must have read that in the article. He's managed to take a photograph, a nude photograph of the teacher, and then started to blackmail her and continued to exploit her, and which eventually became a police case. Now, there is much more to this. What will a 6th standard boy actually take a photograph? The boy is actually connected to another network of human trafficking where he himself is trapped. And as part of an exit plan for the trap, the perpetrator said, if you do this, maybe you will be able to get out. And therefore the child is actually going and taking photographs of a grown-up adult and trying to pass that information to somebody else who's now doing sextortion or coercion or blackmailing. See, these are the 4 common ways. There are many other ways, but I've just called out the 4 top ways how which our children today are affected by online sexual offenses. What happens after the online section? These are some of the behaviors that we observed, and it's very interesting. Those of you parents online, friends online, students online, the college itself can learn from. The first and foremost is people who are exploited online generally end up in a self-destructive behavior. They do not mingle. They are not part of the regular social system. They feel disconnected, and they head towards a direction of a self-destructive because there's a high sense of guilt, high sense of helplessness, and that constantly pushes them, that constantly brings them to a place of a self-destruct. It's like being trapped. It's like being just stuck somewhere and don't know how to come out of it. So generally they exhibit self-destructive behavior. The second is they show high signs of anxiety, depression, and to a very great extent, we found significant of them also involved in substance misuse or abuse. Both are possible as an aftermath of a child or a person or a grown-up adult 1 year and above, right up till 25, 26. Take away the myth that child sexual exploitation only happens, or exploitation happens only to the certain segments of the community. No, the answer is no. I work in anti-human trafficking segment, and the crime has evolved so much today. It has evolved to an extent that today you can pick a girl, select a girl from a college, and hand over the photograph to the perpetrator, and the perpetrator makes ways and means to ensure that the girl is supplied to you. So that is the degree to which the crime is evolving. It involves sizable amount of money, and human beings are a commodity in this, and children are worse in this segment of human trafficking. So anxiety, depression, substance abuse is the second. Third, generally the victims of OSEC are victims of re-traffic. Once they got into the trap, it's very difficult for them to come out on their own. So they end up doing one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, which only will end up into more re-victimization syndrome. They will start with themselves, and eventually they'll have to betray their friends. Then eventually they'll have to get some of their friends involved. So it leads, it's a vicious cycle that they're trapped into. It's not something that they could just come out by themselves. It is worse. And every time they try to come out, they have to do something else, and to do something else, do something else, do something else. They're on a constant chain. They have physical health problems. Yes, definitely, yes. Many of them suffer from various health issues, okay, venereal disease. Some of them even have high orders of disabilities. Sexual difficulties are also experienced by them. Sexual aversion, there's a sexual ambivalence. All these are some of the patterns of identifying a friend or a colleague or a child, somebody who's going through OSEC behavior, okay? So if you find any of these things, your alarm should go up. You should immediately say, hey, I think there is something wrong with this particular. Seek help, seek a counselor, make ways to ensure the child is restored. What are some of the silent factors? Why is this crime able to survive? Why is it able to, what is it underpinning the impact? Okay, the first and foremost is there's a deep sense of silence and a continuation of abuse. This is the primary reason why the crime continues to remain. There's a deep sense of silence, and there's a continuation of abuse. And the people are scared, people are afraid, people don't want to talk about it. They feel ashamed, they feel condemned, they feel not worthy to be able to have communication, and they remain silent. They succumb to the concept of silence. They succumb to being continuously abused. A friend of mine, Dr. P.M. Nair, often uses in his presentation, he says this: there is nobody in the world who's doing prostitution voluntarily. And I agree to that. There is no woman in this world who wants to do it prostitution. She's been continued in the abuse because of the silence, and that has underpinned her in that space. Give her an opportunity, she or he doesn't want to remain in that space. That's the bottom line of what I want to say. The second, disclosure, the fear of being exposed. What will the society think? It's true. We rescue women and children specifically, from sexual exploitation. I know the number of children I've rescued. Some of them have said, please don't send me back home. Give me another alternative. Don't send me back home. Because once I go back home, I'm finished. The society will not accept. I have to live throughout my life in shame and agony. And their stories are really gruesome. Their stories are really gruesome, painful, extensively painful. There's a deep sense of disclosure which stops them from coming out. Most of them go into a self-blame and denigration. They just blame themselves. They say that this is I'm responsible for what I've got into. I'm responsible. I think I have done it. I deserve it. Or I think that's what is my fate, or that's what is my destiny. Okay, they attribute it to themselves, and therefore this crime continues to remain as an underpinned impact. Deep sense of betrayal. Most of them feel disclosure of this is a betrayal of their friendship with the perpetrator or with the person who's been exploiting them. So they don't want to betray them. They want to keep their sense of loyalty high. And that also is a reason why the children are remained. And lastly, fear and anxiety is a big piece. They do not know what lies ahead if a crime like this is exposed. They do not know the roadway ahead of them. And therefore, they are quite deep anxiety grips them. They are not sure what will happen if they expose this. What will happen to them if they expose? Okay, I want to go upon this. I want you to look at these 5 things that I've called out today, specifically. Silence and the continuation of abuse. There's a deep sense, fear of disclosure, self-blame, betrayal, fear and anxiety. How do we understand the demand? Is there a demand? Yes, there is a deep need and sense of demand. I can go on. I can go on the list of data that I can give for you. Let me just read out some data for you on the demand segment. Okay, the India Child Protection Fund says in the last, from the 23rd and the 24th of March, that they have seen 5 million users in every 100 cities. Every 100 city, they found 500 million users asking for child porn. And they've typed words like teen sex, sexy child, child porn. And they're seeking for content which involves choking, screaming, bleeding, pain. This is what they've asked for. There's a significant increase during COVID that they have seen. And I can go on the list of it. The NECMEC, that is the National Center for Missing and Exploitation of Children, has issued a notice to the Ministry of Home Affairs in January saying that there are 25,000 websites exclusively about child porn. Can you ensure that they are immediately banned and immediately removed? Okay, interesting that the all over the world and specifically to India, it says the demand online in the last 37 days has doubled. And the demand more is for child porn. So that is where we are. So understanding the demand, there are three kinds of people who are raising this demand. One is the direct abusers, which could be your own father, your own brother, your own sister, your own neighbor, which could be your own relative, part and parcel of your own circle, the immediate circle. Direct exploiters and abusers, you could be part of that circle. They comprise of a significant amount, but not to a very great extent of what they meet up to the demand of the human trafficking. The second are the intermediaries. There are people who support the demand. They could be our online friends, they could be your online colleagues, your Facebook colleagues, they could be many of them. In fact, Facebook has taken out 95% of the content of online sexual abuse recently. When they were doing a presentation, they said that. So many of these social platforms become the platforms where intermediaries are supporting people to this demand, are constantly watching for the vulnerable people. Okay, it starts with a simple pornographic joke, a simple joke of degradation of a woman, degradation of a child. And once they feel there is this level of acceptance on the joke, then they start sending the content, then they start creating the curiosity. These are people who are available on the social platform. And finally, the underlying factors. This is the online sexual platform. I do not know how many of you have seen the digital signature of the pornographic hub across the world. There are two places from which the whole world of pornography is controlled. One happens to be somewhere close to Greenland and one in the United States. But these are the two people two hubs that control. And you should see the density of the flow of data. That is what is contributing towards the human trafficking. 30 billion industry is supported through these underlying factors, which is the criminal network that is operating. So there is a direct exploiters, there are intermediaries who are supporting the demand and the underlying factors. What do we do? Three things I want to call out for students, parents, everybody. First and foremost principle, ensure that you have a social transparency as far as your social platforms are concerned. Don't operate on the social platform in isolation. As far as possible, try to be socially transparent. Have good buddy systems, create good friend circle, and have a buddy system of not of one particular age group, have of a varied age group so that you get a wide spectrum of experience when you're on the social platform. During the question answers, if you're happy, I'm happy to take you through what is social transparency. The second key I want to give you, stimulate awareness. Webinars like this, colleges like this, start guys talking about the subject, discuss, stimulate, steer people, and push them towards that point of saying, guys, this has to stop. We have to ensure that the children and women in this country are safe. Let's start to stimulate a deep sense of awareness. Spread these webinars, send these recordings wherever you want. Ensure that this is put to an end. Talk to them about the three people who create the demand of online sex trafficking that I've showed you, the intermediaries, the direct exploiters, and finally the human trafficking, the traffickers themselves. Okay, ensure, aware, bring people and circulate them. The third S I want to give you is sharpen detection. Don't be ashamed to talk about it. Don't be ashamed to talk about it. If you're going through or if you've detected it, sharpen, tell people so that the line of exploitation is put to an end and we're able to address that from the core of it. Sharpen it. Let us come. I would advise people from colleges, start having clubs that are child friendly. Start having OSEC clubs. Start having CSEC clubs. Work CSEM clubs. Plan as a team. Do something in your 3 years of time in the college. Ensure that as a college, You are for this subject, and you are creating an environment that sharpens detection. Social transparency is important. Seniors in the college, ensure that your juniors have social transparency. Talk to them about social transparency. Tell them, hey, if somebody is asking you for a job, or somebody gives you a job letter, offer letter, somebody is trying to have a conversation with you, come to me, discuss with me. Let's go, let's see, let's get into the deeper, let's check what it is, let's seek help. Create a sense of social transparency and have more plays, more discourse, more webinars, more discourses, so that you stimulate awareness into the minds of people. And lastly, ensure that detection happens. Okay. Thank you. I end my presentation here. Over to you, Farrell.
Thank you, Commander Ashok. So many points in your presentation are imperative to the safety and security of children. The three W's being major threats to children: what they see, what they do, and who they talk to. And the three S's to practically combat it: social transparency, stimulating awareness, and sharpen detection. Thank you once again. Participants, as mentioned before, we will take questions during the Q&A session, hopefully with time permitting. Our next speaker is Shri Atul Kulkarni, Additional SP of Gondia, Maharashtra. He is currently serving as an Indian Police Service officer in Maharashtra cadre. He secured an AIR, that is an All India rank of 180 in CSE 2014. He has also obtained a post-graduation degree from Tata Institute of Social Sciences in the area of urban police and governance. Known for his community policing initiatives, he has a vast experience of working with social welfare organizations and NGOs. Shri Atul Kulkarni ji was eager to join us live on this webinar. However, as you may know or have read, the cases of COVID-19 in Maharashtra are the highest in the country, and being part of the Indian Police Services, he was called to duty during this time. He has, however, graciously prepared a presentation and recorded a video for this webinar. I am also told that he, time permitting, will hopefully join us for the Q&A session. For now, team, can you please play the presentation?
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me for this webinar on online exploitation, especially again during lockdown. For joining this webinar, I would like to share my experiences of police during lockdown times, and especially the ill effects which has on the. Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me for this webinar on online sexual exploitation, especially against children during lockdown times. I would like to thank IJM team and St. Gonsalo Garcia faculty and students joining the webinar. I would like to share my experiences of policing during lockdown times, and especially the ill effects which has on the children. I would like to begin my presentation on giving brief introduction of how this child exploitation is happening, how the human trafficking of minors actually take place. So you can see in the slide that child trafficking.
We apologize for the technical glitches. Please bear with us.
Policing during lockdown times, and especially the ill effects which has on the children. I would like to begin my presentation on giving brief introduction of how this child exploitation is happening and how the human trafficking of minors actually take place. So you can see in the slide that child trafficking is a huge industry, and human trafficking is supposed to be second largest criminal industry after drug trafficking. The experience and the data shows that 75% of this 2.7 crore victims who were trafficked last year worldwide, 40% are minors. So what are the reasons behind child trafficking? So you can see that the roots of child trafficking goes back to prostitution, the labor exploitation, organ donation. Even you can see begging or creating pornographic content. These are some of the reasons why there is increase in child exploitation, and that is why there is huge trafficking in minors. What are the roots of child trafficking? So you can see that there is a hidden economy which is both supply and demand side. The supply and demand nexus is so huge that there are a lot of factors which are actually fueling this exploitation. So you can see that there is a demand and supply nexus is there. One side you have poverty, illiteracy, unemployment. There is skewed development. There is a huge growth in urban areas, and those who are the hinterland, they are mostly left out. There is gender-based violence, and there is demand for the demand for victims who are actually mainly minors. You can see that there is a lot of network which is involved in this trafficking of children. This diagram shows that there is spotter. Spotter is one who identifies the child who has to be trafficked. Then there is this recruiter. He actually goes and recruits the child. So I can cite some example from my real life experiences. When I was posted in Thane, Mira Bhinder, we had a lot of issues of prostitution. So we actually used to rescue children, and then we interviewed them as to find out what is the exact reason. Then we found that most of them were actually trafficked from West Bengal, even they are from Northeast such as Assam, most of the states in Northeast. Then we had people who were coming from Bangladesh crossing over to West Bengal. So you could see that there is a huge network, one who actually spots them. Then there is recruitment which takes place. Then after they are recruited, then there is another level of buyers who actually they are promised for some jobs, say in Mumbai or Pune or any metropolitan big cities, and from there they are actually given on promise of giving some job or some employment, livelihood. So they are actually bought and then sold to another middleman. Then they are transported from this source to metropolitan cities via, it can be trains, it can be buses, vehicles. So they are transported. Then there is a harborer who actually, once they come to metropolitan city, they are actually put in some place where they are told that they will be given some employment, etc. This is from this place where the real exploitation of children starts, and then whole thing is actually financed by this network who actually deal with this child trafficking. Then sometimes you will find that there is a huge demand for minor girls in the market, and there are pimps who actually keep them, and finally we have the clientele who actually is the last customer who actually demands for this kind of sexual acts. So you can see there is a huge network of people who are involved in this child trafficking. So I come into today's topic of I gave a brief background of how this say child pornography or how child online sexual exploitation or the pornographic material related to child are put in the online platform. So this gives a background as to how a child is actually trafficked, and then he is exploited. There are some child pornographic videos which are made, and then the ill effects on the wider public is what we are going to discuss right now. So we get into the topic of online sexual abuse. So this child sexual abuse is actually defined as it is online abuse of children who are less powerful, and they are exploited by the more powerful person for sexual gratification. Example, if an adult uses a child for his sexual gratification, then it becomes child sexual abuse. So now, because there is lot of internet penetration among the masses, so you can see everyone has a smartphone and has internet access via his mobile. You can get easily access to all this child sexual pornographic videos, which are actually quite dangerous, and we will go on to discuss about how this lockdown actually has affected and increased the child sexual abuse. So we actually then go on to define what is child sexual abuse material. So there is a National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. This is an agency which monitors the data as to how much material which is related to child pornography which is uploaded on the internet. So this is defined as material which principally comprises of pictures or videos which depicts children in a clear sexual angle or in a very compromising angle. So this agency is which monitors the data which has some sexual content which is related to children, and India stands at the top of the list based on the data. We have 19.87 lakh such kind of content or reports which are actually given by the citizens or those who are working in NGOs or those who are aware about all this sexual material. These many reports were received by this agency, which is actually 11.7% of the total content on the internet. What are the characteristics of child sexual abuse? So you have this material which is uploaded, but what is the child really going through? Child actually is one who is less powerful. He is actually vulnerable. He's actually promised something, and he's got into a very bad cycle of abuse. So children are actually have to many times are forced to oblige to the sexual acts which other person who is more powerful is doing. Especially this happens to the girl child. You can I will discuss about a case study where we cracked an online WhatsApp group which was actually uploading very small minor girls who were actually forced into this sexual acts, and the videos were recorded and uploaded. So children have very limited information about what this sexual act is, so they are basically forced into doing this act, and they don't actually have the power to question the other person because they are actually in a very vulnerable situation, as we discussed that many factors which led to this situation. So what is online sexual exploitation? I have explained this step by step. Online sexual abuse material is actually it is actually uploaded on the internet. Most of the times we call this as child pornography. If you are accessing it or processing it, producing it or distributing these images, then it is a crime, and this leads to online sexual abuse. If a person is simply just sitting in his home and he is even accessing this content, this content, child pornography, is not easily, or you can say it is not available on Google or this visible internet. It is basically available on darknet and hidden the dark web, where this is all these files and videos are actually hidden. So these kind of videos, even if you are uploading or if you are accessing that, then you are actually committing a crime. So next one is grooming of child for sexual abuses. These are some of the steps which I have actually trying to discuss. So basically, child is developing a relationship, and the person who is abusing it is actually slowly developing relationship with a child and exploits him. Proliferation of social media and internet and access to the online content has actually increased, and there are a lot of, you can see, messaging apps and even live streaming apps which have actually drastically increased in the last 2 months due to lockdown. So this kind of videos where a child is getting exploited, that is live streamed on the internet, and there are lots of lakhs of people who are watching it, and this has led to a lot of online sexual crimes. So as I continue, this live streaming of sexual abuse of children using online video apps to view, sometimes interact with child, sexual abuse of children. Many times we are getting reports that such things are actually going on, and police, usually we get complaints of such live streaming which is going on. This has increased during the lockdown times. I will come to the numbers as to how much there is increase and what effect it has. Then there is sextortion. There are some examples of children who are actually coerced or blackmailed into doing such sexual acts on the internet, and this sextortion has also increased. There are some videos which are taken. Say that we had a classic case, that a girl, small, very minor girl, actually was having a relationship with a guy. Then they had a breakup. Then what happened is, this guy had planted some secret cameras in the bathroom, and he had recorded them. And once they broke up, then this guy had access to all the content, all the sexual content of this girl, and he was threatening this girl to continue the relationship, or he would make this videos viral. So this is one kind of blackmailing, where the girl is actually put in a very vulnerable position, and she doesn't know whether to approach the police, whether investigation will happen, where she will get justice, and where all this content is going. So this is a very huge challenge which the law enforcement agencies face. Then there are blackmailing, or there is financial gains. Some people actually demand money for just not uploading these videos online. These cases are on the rise. There are so many apps which have come up, like TikTok or even Zoom. There are so many live streaming apps, and because of this abuse, I will just discuss about the lockdown effects. There are I have just noted down some reports. IJM's report itself, due to closure of schools due to COVID, IJM has said that there can be very high increase in online sexual abuse. Then there is a report which came in Hindu newspaper, 19.87 lakh such online material which is circulated during this lockdown period. This is a number which actually Hindu stated it. Then police or child welfare experts have also warned that there can be severe rise in the online sexual abuse or child content, child pornography, which is uploaded on the internet. And even Global Partnership to End Violence has said that Corona pandemic has led to an unprecedented increase in the screen time, which is number of hours which people spend on internet or mobile viewing this kind of child pornographic content. So I want to bring in a very new perspective. We are seeing that a lot of people are facing hardship due to this corona, and we are seeing that a lot of migrants are actually moving from one place to other, either by walk, bicycle, etc., through vehicles, trucks. But this is a very new dimension. The people who are trafficked, either it can be woman or minor child, the most vulnerable are the girl child. If they are trafficked and they are confined in some brothels or in some goons who have actually kept them, they don't have even an option to even go back to the place from where they came. They are actually exploited every day, and their videos are made, they are uploaded on internet, and they are threatened that if any case they are run away or they approach police or law enforcement agencies or anyone outside the place where they are kept, they are threatened, they are actually physically abused, and they are beaten very badly. And this is such a kind of worst effect it has that because of lockdown they don't everyone is inside, they are not freely going out, and these are the most vulnerable people who are affected due to the lockdown. This is the dimension which I wanted to share. I want to share my experience. I was in my first posting as ASP, I was posted in Mira Bhinder. I took charge in December 2017. Then we started working actively on human trafficking and prostitution cases. And one complainant, we did around 15, 20 raids in Mira Bhinder. I could see, and when I started interviewing this people who are victims of this crime, they were actually forced into this kind of activities. And one complaint we got is one complainant said that there is a WhatsApp group which is actually uploading child pornographic videos, and it is very abusive, and the group is full, and every day youngsters are exchanging videos, and it is very violent. So they are giving very violent comments. So then we took this person into confidence. He didn't want to share his identity. Somehow he had joined this group through Facebook link, and he didn't want to reveal any of his identity. Then initially he shared few screenshot of this who was the admin. Then we did a preliminary investigation, and IJM team was very supportive. Their technical team, the cyber team, we sat together. We actually came up with a profiling of all the people who were in the group. There were 8 or 9 admins. We took all their mobile data, like SDR, which is the subscriber, their address where their mobile is registered. So we compiled all this people's data, then to know that there is not one group there, but there is 4 WhatsApp group which are actually full. Complete 26 members were actually in that group, and this person who was introduced the group was actually giving us all the information. Then we made a complete profile of the people who were actually in this group. Then we found, to our shock, that they were spread across India, not just in Maharashtra or Mumbai. They were in Chennai, Bhopal, even Goa and Northeast, Bengal. So across India they were there. Then we started complete investigation of this case before we could raid and arrest them. Then IJM team was very supportive, and the Mumbai IJM team, actually we called out a complete plan as to how we would go ahead with this raid. We actually identified people who were in Mumbai, Thane, and nearby districts. So we made six or seven teams. Simultaneously, we went to this place, to their house, and then in a single night we could actually go and raid these 7 places, and we actually got this persons back to the police station. We on the spot we did a panchanama, and we checked their mobiles, and we, to our shock, we could see all the videos, and WhatsApp groups were very active. During then we had to go with the investigation. So we did the complete investigation. To our shock, we found that these videos were actually uploaded in darknet, and a few members who had access to this content were actually downloading it, and the members were actually given financial incentives for even joining this group. If you join, there was a certain point of bonus. Then if you actually upload content, then you had multiple bonuses. And if you add new members, there were bonuses. We were actually very shocked to see that youngsters actually getting into such kind of crimes. And we actually had a all India crackdown of this entire WhatsApp group network. and we completely shut this WhatsApp group. We arrested more than 15 to 20 people, all the admins and those who had actually commented or shared these videos. So we were able to successfully crack down this network of child pornography, and we successfully investigated this case. So this case was actually very shocking, and it showed that because of online content which is accessible on everyone's mobile, and this child pornography was freely circulated between these members. This is during lockdown times. This has actually increased, and you can see that ill effects on who are watching it, even the child, and it has very psychologically demotivating effects. So going further, what are the suggestions? So this case actually we had a lot of we had to collaborate with a lot of other law enforcement agencies like CID, even Tamil Nadu police, or wherever we went for the raid, the respective respective district or the law enforcement agencies, where we had to coordinate with them. So if there is greater collaboration, then we could able to identify the networks and crack down all such child pornographic materials. So then the building partnership between law enforcement agency and community. We started creating awareness. This webinar itself, there are a lot of students, there is faculty who are actually watching this, creating awareness, and the building partnership between the community and the police. If there is any such violence which is actually reported, then it can come to our notice, and we would be able to investigate and crack down these cases. Stronger legal frameworks, there is IPC, there is IT Act. So any such any kind of such crime is actually in the legal framework, and this could be strengthened, and more such crackdown of cases can be done. Then since training and sensitization of citizens and increasing awareness, every schools or colleges should have some kind of anti-human trafficking awareness cells or clubs, you can say like that. People could discuss such kind of topics, and then creating this could actually create awareness, and we could keep an tab. Citizen awareness is very important, and this could actually lead and recognize that this is a very kind of deadly crime, and it is very hidden, but it is freely accessible to the person who actually wants to access this. And this I think webinar would help in creating awareness and sensitizing the viewers who are viewing this. Thank you for giving this opportunity, IJM team, and thank you. All the best. Jai.
We are so grateful to Shri Atul Kulkarni sir for sending this presentation to us. And indeed, it has given us much to be appreciative of the many tasks that the police are currently undertaking. And they have so much on their plate with the current situation, and yet they continue to work towards the safety and security of children. And as sir mentioned, situational awareness, creating a situation of conversation about such crimes in your colleges, as well as creating, an anti-human trafficking club or an anti-online sexual exploitation club, will really encourage people who are abused to report the crime, to speak about the crime, to actually go to the police officials, the cyber cells, and report this crime. We're now going to open up the Q&A session, but as we are short on time, we will try to just take a few questions. For most of the other questions that were coming up in the chat box, I hope both sessions were able to answer a majority of that. So right now, I have a question for Commander Ashok. Commander, how can we make the children aware about this crime and have them speak up? Since many of this goes hidden and children do not want to share this. Also, how do we guide parents on ways to support children and raise their voice against the exploitation? as they also would like to keep a lot of these cases in the dark. Over to you, Commander.
Yeah, thank you, Farrell. That's a very valid question. I would have taken another 45 minutes to explain to you this question, but let me just give you a very simple solution to this problem. The Ministry of Home Affairs has made a beautiful document, which is a 38-page document with cartoon pictures, and they have called out close to 27 subjects which are readable by children and by parents. Okay, it's available on WhatsApp. I'm not very sure that the technical team can put it on the WhatsApp chat. If not, I'm happy to share my number or take Farrell's number. We will send you that WhatsApp. It's a lovely document. I've read a lot of content on this. The MHA is so beautifully called out. If you've been cyberbullied, what does the parent do? What does the child do? If you have been sexually abused, what does the child do? What does the parent do? Beautifully carved out with cartoon pictures so that even a child of 5 or 4 years old can actually see what is cyberbullying. And I would say that is the best option that I can right now throw it across for the people. Is that okay, Phil?
Yes, sir. And to all participants, we will be sharing this resource with you via email once the session is complete. Thank you, Commander. Commander, one more question to you. Would you be able to throw some light on what we should do to make the young teens understand how to responsibly use social media? And sometimes the pranks that they do would turn into cause serious damage. For example, the recent boys' locker room issues.
I would say two things for the young people who are using the social media. It is a domain space that belongs to you. It's your fundamental right, and you have all freedom to protect your domain space. Normally what happens in teenagers is they tolerate a minor offense or overlook a minor offense, thinking it is a joke, and not knowing that actually sets the stage for a major offense. So I would say to the teenagers, if you find anything wrong, it could be as small as a gesture, report it. Speak up at the first opportunity so that your cyberspace is safe, transparent, and more than that, you're well protected. That's the first tip I can give for you. The second tip I can speak for you. I want to say this to you as young people. This nation belongs to you. You are the future guardians of this country. And what you do today, what you report today, will protect the millions that come after you. So as educated people, especially the students of this platform, my humble request, my plea, guys, let nobody have the right to enter or to touch or to exploit you. Nobody has the right. And don't allow that to be any platform to be called as a joke or accepted. Raise it. Raise it. I said that the third S, sharpen detection. Speak it. And speak it at the first shot. That would be my suggestion to the team. Yeah. Over to you, Farrell.
Yes. Thank you so much, Commander, for your valuable inputs. Right now, we have Shri Atul Kulkarni ji. Sir, welcome to the webinar. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Sir, we have a few questions. Also, I must say thank you for sharing your video. It had a lot of information, and I'm sure the participants have benefited from it. Sir, if you could share what are the legal provisions by which people can file complaints against child sexual abuse, and who do they file it to?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking this question. And I would like to tell the audience who are asking this question that any complaint which you want to file, you can go to the nearest police station and then go and give the complaint. If there is ample evidence which you have, like you have a lot of, say, if there is, we had one classical case where a small girl came to the police station and she was saying that a lot of messages, nude messages, nude pictures, etc. were actually sent on her Facebook account. So we did a preliminary investigation and then we found out from whom it was sent, and we kept the identity of the girl very anonymous. We didn't want to reveal anything to the girl, and even 2 days back we got a similar complaint that certain messages are sent which are actually very violent and sexually abusive, then anyone who has such complaint, they can approach the nearest police station. There are, say in Maharashtra, there are cyber police stations across districts. And even if you go to any remote district, you will find cyber police station. And then there is a technical team who actually does the investigation, and there are IPC sections. If there is any IT violation, there is IT section, Information Technology Act, which is very powerful. It has all types of the crimes which are covered there on any kind of cyberbullying, cyber abuse, online crimes. Everything is actually covered in the IT Act. Using these sections of IT Act and IPC, police actually files a complaint, does an investigation, and gives justice to the victim. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So also in light of the POCSO Act, would that also imply that reporting is of great importance when it comes to any kind of abuse against children?
Yeah, POSCO Act is very powerful act. What it has done is, even courts are very serious about reporting of the POSCO, the investigation of POSCO Act. What happens is, generally the victim is very scared to approach police. So we have taken initiative. We started initiative in Thane rural. What we did is, we started Bharosa Cell. We actually encourage the girls or any victims of cyberbullying or online sexual exploitation. We had a separate team. There were women police officers who were not in a uniform but in civil dress. And they were actually specially trained to handle such cases, be sensitive. And first thing is, police have to listen to the complainant and ensure that whatever the girl is facing actually doing a medical preliminary investigation of what the girl actually has faced. So by this, what we were able to do is, the complainant was freely able to come to the police station, report such cases, and then we were able to handle the girl very sensitively, and then register FIR, get all the details, and then apply the POSCO section, do proper investigation. And court is very serious. We had to file the charge sheet within 60 days, and even the culprit was arrested and charge sheeted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So one last question to you. Why do porn websites or the content that is shared there not be scrutinized thoroughly? What are the regulating authorities by which we can complain against such sites?
Yeah, this is a very good question. We wonder, why doesn't all this online content, which actually goes through some certain routers at say national level, or at very we have some servers and routers. Why don't we block all these websites which are actually uploading all this child pornographic content? So we actually thought about this, but the problem is, there are multiple websites which just, if you pull down one website, then others same next day we have another website which is showing similar content about this. So the challenge is that this most of these child pornographic videos, or anonymity is very huge. You don't know who's uploading it. You cannot trace the IP address easily, because if I get into technical details, it will be very confusing for the viewers. But just basics I will tell you. We cannot easily track the IP address of the persons who have uploaded this or who have created this website. We try to block this website, and again new websites keep coming, and just it's like multiple hydras which are actually just springing out. So this is one of the challenge which law enforcement agencies have. Most of this content is thoroughly monitored at cyber level. In Maharashtra, we have special cyber cells who are actually monitoring such data which are hosted across India or across world. And most of these websites, if there any complaint, then most of these websites are taken down.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to answer the questions. Unfortunately, due to the paucity of time, we will have to cut short the questions right now. I would like to now invite Mr. Mervyn de Mello to share some of his closing remarks, as well as give a vote of thanks. Mervyn de Mello joined IJM Mumbai in 2010 as the Director of Community Relations. At present, Mervyn serves as the Head of Community and Corporate Engagement, where he leads his team to liaise with local communities and corporations to support anti-human trafficking initiatives. Mervyn has had previously over 20 years of service, both in the corporate and NGO sectors, and has served as a trustee on 2 anti-human trafficking boards. Over to you, Mr. de Mello.
Remarks on this beautiful webinar that was hosted by IGM. And we have been involving the community to engage in combating this crime. And we have been in this fight for the last 20 years. But before I go to my concluding remarks, may I just share a story of 2 sisters. I shall call them Simran and Sneha, not their real names. They were aged 12 years and 9 years respectively. They lived with their father and their stepmother in a small hutment in the slum of Mumbai. And these two children were forced by their parents to do sexually exploitative type of work. 9-year-old Sneha was forced to do oral sexual acts with customers, and 12-year-old Simran was supposed to do sexual acts with customers. It numbed me as it would numb each one of you to know that the child's body and mind were being fragmented in such a fashion. How do they manage these feelings of their bodies and in such a way? Whom do we Fortunately for them, on 28 June 2016, IGM staff investigated the case, and with the help of the police, like Sir Atul Kulkarni, these 2 girls were rescued from this abuse. We had 2 members from the community coming as independent witnesses on this rescue, and the perpetrator was arrested and is behind bars. And fortunately for these 2 girls, they did not slip through the cracks. But how do you and I stop the millions and millions of our own children who go through long time sexual abuse, whether online or offline? How do we stop them from slipping through the cracks? Should we allow this to go on and do nothing serious about it till it reaches a stage when such a child's life is totally fragmented, shred into pieces, and with zero chance of recovery? The curtain must come down. It must rattle each one of us. This story must not just be an obscure story, but these stories of these children who are being exploited both offline and online must be the overwhelming story. And so it is my appeal to you to, and from the feedback and from the beautiful exposure we got from our panelists, I think they highlighted just a few things, and this is where I will really echo what they're saying is, please be sensitive to this crime, this heinous crime that is taking place with children, online sexual if you ever have to meet a child, will not talk to you, but her body will start screaming. The number of abortions, the organs being damaged, the ravaging sicknesses that these children endure, or they get through the other customers, the lack of sleep, the black spots around the eyes, the nightmares, their poor self-confidence or zero self-confidence, their poor self-worth. The child doesn't have to talk to you. It is their body that will start talking and screaming at you. And so I would really, really appeal to you to be sensitive about this matter, to spread awareness about this matter, to be sensitized about this matter. And, I would really appeal to you students, stop watching pornography. Please put an end to it, because it is hurting so many children. And the second thing that the panelists brought up was to start a club, an anti-human trafficking club, perhaps in your college, with the permission of your principal. If you do that, I think that would be a great way of getting the student community not only aware and sensitized, but doing something about this crime. You can have group discussions, you can talk about this issue, you can deliberate about this issue, you can also think about ways of not just fixing the blame, but fixing the problem. I think these clubs will do a great work of really curbing this crime and really bringing an end to this crime in our lifetime. And so that is these two appeals that I would like to make to you. And in the end, I would like to thank, as I conclude this today's webinar, I would like to thank all those who made this possible. Special thanks to Atul Kulkarni sir. Despite being such a busy man, he made himself available to speak and enlighten the students on this subject. Sir, you enriched this discourse with your learnings and experience. We are honored by your presence, and we wish you the very best and good health as you continue to strive to keep our city safe. I would also like to thank Commander Ashok Kumar for his passionate delivery. I am sure that your young minds have benefited immensely from his sharing, and the learnings have been etched into your minds. My thanks and my gratitude also goes to the principal of St. Gonsalo Garcia College, Vasai, Dr. Somnath Vibhute, for providing this valuable opportunity to collaborate and to speak with the young leaders of tomorrow, and for all the support provided towards making this webinar a reality. My special thanks also to the faculty of St. Gonzalo Garcia College, Vasai, for joining us. Your presence, faculty, is valuable and encouraging. A very special thanks to all the students who have joined us today on this webinar. We are so glad that they had the privilege and opportunity to speak to you. We believe in you and your ability to be able and responsible leaders of communities and corporations in the future. I hope all of you had a good time of learning. I would like to thank Melissa Valavalkar, Director of Operations of IGM Mumbai, for her guidance and continuous support. Thank you to my team from IGM, Flarel as our moderator, Sumit, behind the scenes, Christine, Julius, who put their weight behind the event, and to all my colleagues who have joined in from different parts of the country. Thank you for joining, and hopefully this heinous crime against children shall end in our lifetime with support from you, student community. Over to you, Flarel.
Thank you, Mr. De Mello, for elaborating on the need for reporting of the crime and for initiating an anti-human trafficking club within the college. Participants, you may please reach out to us, to IJM, through your college faculty, should you wish to have any assistance in creating this club. I also would like to take this time to ask each of you to give us your feedback on this session. The link is provided to you in the chat box. Once you provide this feedback, you will receive an e-certificate from the college within the next 2 weeks. Once again, I would like to say a big thank you to all who have been instrumental in organizing and conducting this webinar, and to all of you who have given your time to attend it. Thank you all for your time. Goodbye. We will keep the webinar chat for a short while so that all of you can access the link. Thank you.
you.